A very pleasant morning, everyone. It is indeed a great honor and a pleasure to introduce the 2022 Bonifacio P. Sibayan Professorial Chair holder. Well-deserved, ang galing, nakaka-proud maging student niya. Truly a pride of PNU. These are only some posts I saw in different GCs since LSP released the PubMap for this event. Our BPS Professorial Chair holder holds a PhD in Linguistics from the Philippine Normal University, where she is currently an associate professor. She is the director of the Philippine National Research Center for Teacher Quality, or RCTQ. She works closely with the CMER National Research Center at the University of New England in Australia. She has 27 years of experience in the field of education, starting as a basic education classroom teacher to becoming an associate professor of linguistics, administrative official, and researcher. Her research interests, apart from teacher quality, include political discourse. Her dissertation was about the linguistic construction of identity in presidential discourse. She has also written a paper on the language of impeachment in the trial of the Philippine Chief Justice. She has led national research projects, served as a resource person in various legislative hearings, helped develop Department of Education policies, authored and co-authored reports to DepEd policy notes, English textbooks, and refereed journal articles. She considers her most recent accomplishment the ratification by Congress of the Excellence in Teacher Education Act, a reform bill she helped develop with the Office of the President-led Technical Working Group on Teacher Quality. In RCTQ, she led project teams that collaborated with the Department of Education in the development and validation of the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers, the Philippine Professional Standards for School Heads, and the Philippine Professional Standards for Supervisors. Other collaborations include the conduct of the National Educators Academy of the Philippines Transformation Study. She has also worked with the Education Pathways for Peace in Mindanao on the mapping study of TEIs serving the BARM. She has collaborated with the National Network of Normal Schools, or 3NS, and most recently with Mindanao State University and Western Mindanao State University. Internationally, she worked as a technical consultant for the Bhutan Ministry of Education in the development and validation of the Bhutan Professional Standards for Teachers. She has worked with UNESCO in Myanmar and represented the Philippines in Malaysia, Indonesia, and Brunei as an expert to review the proposed teacher education standards and framework for quality assurance of teacher education institutions in ASEAN, of the Association of Southeast Asian Teacher Education Network, or ASTEN, an ASEAN think tank. She was awarded an honorary Doctor of Letters honoris causa by the University of New England in Australia and earned a postdoctoral fellowship for her leadership in research from the same university. She was also a recipient of the Australian Awards Fellowship. Ladies and gentlemen, Bonifacio P. Sibayan Professorial Chair holder, Dr. Gina O. Gonong.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Sally. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear, Dr. Gina.
Thank you, Ma'am Sally. I'd like to thank the Linguistic Society of the Philippines for this honor. Receiving the Bonifacio Sibayan Distinguished Professorial Chair is one of the highlights of my life, and the call of Dr. Aldrin Lee, LSP President, was among the best calls ever. I share this honor with my family, with my Philippine Normal University family, led by our president, Dr. Bertuga, my colleagues at CMER National Research Center, led by Dr. John Peg, my friends from Bhutan Ministry of Education, they are here today. Rinchen and Sring are here. my friends from New Era University, from the National Network of Normal Schools, from Pathways, and my friends from the Department of Education, and of course, my linguistics friends and classmates, and my former students. Of course, all glory and praises to Almighty God. Thank you very much for this morning. Thank you very much for this wonderful award. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, I'd like to know if you can see my screen.
Yes po, Doc.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, my talk is on languaging the Philippine professional standards for teachers. Okay, I'm going to talk about the Philippine professional standards for teachers, but then it's going to be on the linguistic part. But let me give you a brief background on the Philippine professional standards for teachers. The development work started in 2013. This commenced during the time of former Secretary Brother Armin Luistro. In 2017, it was signed into policy by Secretary Leonor Briones. In 2019, it was recognized by World Bank as one of the 3 key policy levers in human capital development in the Philippines. And most recently, it's a core framework for teacher education in the Excellence in Teacher Education Act, ratified by Congress on January 31, 2022. So we're waiting for it to get transmitted to the Office of the President for signature. Very briefly, the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers supports teachers in their professional practice. Okay? It's not meant to burden teachers, but it's meant to be supportive of teachers. It focuses on teaching. Okay? You know about the many non-teaching jobs that teachers would say are given to them by their school heads, or they need to do them because nobody else in schools would do. So the professional standards focuses on teaching. From its approval in 2017, from the issuance of DepEd Order number 42, series of 2017, there were policies that emerged out of this mother policy. Okay? The policies focus on professional development. Okay, so I have here DepEd Order number 11, which is the implementation of NAIAP transformation. DepEd Order number 1, which is NAIAP recognition guidelines for PD programs and courses, and DepEd priorities for teachers and school leaders for school year 2020-2023. There were also memos on performance management of teachers. They are all focused on the results-based performance management system. And hopefully very soon, the Department of Education can release its proposed career progression policy, which is a policy that I am sure a lot of teachers have been waiting for. When I was asked to join RCTQ in 2013 and was asked to take on the project development and validation of the professional standards for teachers, it wasn't a very easy moment, knowing that I am not a maths person, I am not a statistician. Okay, so the issue was how to begin, where to begin, how do I do it? Okay, where do I begin? Okay, and always I go back to what I know. So I'm going to tell you about my linguistic journey. This presentation, the study, the development and validation of PPST is not a hardcore linguistic study. But I am telling you that the perspectives that I used, being the project leader, of course, is linguistics. Okay. So when I take on the project, I surveyed what I know. Okay.
Gina?
Okay. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. Pwede pakiclick yung presentation mode para mas malaki yung screen?
Is it not presentation?
We can see, we can see kasi the next slide.
Okay.
Yung
slideshow from current slide.
That one.
Okay.
Okay, that's better.
Thank you. Thank you, Doc Shirley, for letting me know. Okay. So I have to start with what I know. Okay. And what do I know? I know that we do things with words. Okay. You say, I now, a priest says, or a minister says, I now declare you man and wife, and then those words are able to do something, right? Language determines or influences thought, or language shapes or impacts our worldview. Okay, that's how powerful language is. That's according to Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. Okay, language is a form of social practice. Okay, and discourse is an inherent part of society and partakes in all society's injustices. These are my favorite quotes, okay? Particularly the one on form of social practice and inherent part of society and partakes in all society's injustices. I do not want to be leading a project, okay, that will contribute to raising some injustice to teachers or to anybody else that's going to use the product that I was going to develop with the Department of Education. Okay, so just like what I said, this is not a hardcore linguistic study. Okay, so this is the phase 1 of the study with 3 stages. We reviewed related literature and analyzed baseline data. We consulted with key stakeholders and the reference panel. We drafted the standards with the help of basically with the technical working group, and that's a highly iterative process. And phase 2 has draft design clarification study, national validation studies, and final validation and finalization of the standards. And in all these processes, we consulted with key stakeholders and the reference panel or our advisory board. And all of this aimed to lead to policy recommendations, okay? But this process had me thinking about linguistic perspectives all throughout. So in all these stages, I had in mind language. I had linguistic perspectives. Okay, let's talk about languaging, the professional standards. Okay, so what do we mean by languaging here? How do we make meaning of the work and experiences of a teacher? You know how complex the work of a teacher could be. It could be sad, it could be inspirational, okay? There can be just so many experiences that we could get from different teachers across different grade levels and across different contexts in the Philippines. Okay, but you also want to shape, okay, the best practices, the good practices of the profession. So how do you shape a profession's quality practice through language? What words do you use? What language do you use? So that what you come up with is a representation of the profession's quality practice. What about the aspirations of teachers, their dreams, what they want to be, how they want to become a better version of themselves? How do you create these aspirations of teachers through language? So it's not simply finding the words or writing sentences. It's about considering the rich experiences, right? The aspirations of teachers, okay? And considering, of course, the context of high quality practice as we know internationally. The first thing that I did was to understand the profession, understand the teachers. I taught in basic education for 10 years. That was in a private school. But then my work, when I started my linguistics field, applied linguistics field, my work was mostly focused not on teacher quality, not on education, but on linguistic areas. Okay? So starting with what I know, going back to what I know, I used it as my strength so that I'm able to embrace the profession. I'm able to understand the teachers. I'm able to understand the teaching profession. So I used critical discourse analysis, okay, to construct the identity of teachers in print discourse, okay, with 29 interview articles, opinion pieces, and editorials. And these are what I found out. Teachers are generally not depicted in a positive way in discourse. They are overworked and underpaid. They are underqualified with low status. They cannot detect factual and grammatical errors in substandard textbooks. They lack English proficiency. They lack competence. They are maids in Hong Kong and Singapore. Okay. So it's sad to read words like this. It's sad to see depiction of teachers like this. While teachers, when topicalized, are regarded as agents of change, okay? That means they can help learners, they can help the country. Okay? So these languages are present in discourse, and yet they are not endowed with power. Teachers are powerless given their context. The discourse says no matter how good, they cannot teach well in a crowded classroom with an overcrowded curriculum. They should be given time to plan. By whom, right? They have been unjustly treated and forced into slavery. Who are the power elites? The government. Okay? And remember, I was working with the Department of Education, with a Commission on Higher Education. Okay? And the government has the power to change the system and teachers' situation. Okay? So these are the real powerful entities. In all those texts, the strategy of derogation is subtle and indirect. While they say forced into slavery, not competent, lack proficiency, all of these statements are phrased in a sympathetic way. Okay, it's like telling the reader we need to help our teachers. Okay, but if you get through all the words, okay, what is left in your mind will be all those negative images of teachers. Okay, and remember when in CDA you get you go for the powerless. Okay, you are biased towards the powerless. So when I read the discourse, when I read the text, I was biased towards the teachers. Of course, I reviewed literature on standards, and again, you see there standards being used to control teachers' practice. Okay, and the suggestion that standards should be owned and overseen by the profession, and standards should move from imposed by government to developed by teachers. And teaching standards should move from imposed accountability to individual responsibility. All these thoughts were with me as I led the development and validation of the professional standards for teachers in the Philippines. We reviewed international teacher standards, okay, as a preliminary to drafting the standards with a technical working group. We used softwares such as Anconc, Pleximancer, and Vivo. We analyzed the linguistic similarities as well as differences in teacher standards to come up with a global picture of what comprises teacher quality. We needed the global picture. Okay? We know the local context. Our technical working group members know the local context. We'll consult with teachers Okay, but we'll have to make sure that whatever we come up with, the set of standards that we come up with, represents also what's recognized internationally as standards that represent teacher quality. The corpus totals about 198,000 word tokens. It's composed of 43 teacher standards from various countries in the world. Okay, so these are just screenshots of the softwares that we used. I couldn't find a sample of Leximancer anymore, no matter how I went through my emails. Okay, so we found concepts, we found big concepts, we found key concepts, but we also found gaps. Okay, in the current standards then, in the standards in 2013, 2009, 2013. Okay, so we found gaps, and these were some of the gaps. Okay, emphasis on content knowledge and pedagogy. This is so much present in international standards. The use of learners' mother tongue, recognition of linguistic and religious backgrounds of learners, recognition of indigenous groups, development of critical and creative thinking, use of effective classroom communication strategies, development of literacy and numeracy skills, use of research-based knowledge, positive use of ICT. And we also found these phrases as being very explicit in discourse with disabilities and difficult circumstances, or learners in difficult circumstances. So with all our review, we supported the technical working group members. With all our review, the softwares were there when they had when they needed to find out more about phrases or about words. So we drafted the standards with the technical working group that composed of DepEd teachers, officials, supervisors. I think supervisors during that time. Director Jennifer Lopez. This is a shout out to Director Jennifer Lopez, who was a member of the technical working group then, but she was a supervisor then, but was a teacher for a long time. Ching Tolentino might be here also. And we also have members from the Commission on Higher Education. Okay, the photo here shows you the members of the reference panel or the advisory board. We present milestones to them. They give comments to our draft. They guide us in our thinking. These are people from DepEd, from CHED, from Philippine Business for Education, from PRC, from Civil Service Commission. Okay, and Dr. Hidalgo is from FUSE. So the TWG drafted the standards with our help. After drafting the standards, we checked the language of the draft standards. Okay, I'm just going to show you some tables out of the many tables that we have produced when we compared the draft standards with then NCBTS. We built on the National Competency-Based Teacher Standards, and we found gaps that could help improve NCBTS. During that time, by the way, PPST wasn't called PPST, it was called Developmental NCBTS. So we weren't able to change that we changed that in the tables, we'll have PPST. So when we looked at the phrases used in world standards, many phrases use, 58.1% use the phrase content knowledge and pedagogy. NCBTS here should actually be not 58.1 because there's no content knowledge and pedagogy in NCBTS. The data also support the combination of curriculum and planning instead of just the word curriculum. The phrase assessment and reporting has a presence of 32.6% in teacher standards across the world, compared with planning, assessing, and reporting with only 13.9%. The phrase community linkages and professional engagement also has a higher presence with 51.2% compared with community linkages with only 13.9%. So this gives us confidence that we're able to capture at the domain level what's expected of teachers around the world, what's expected of quality teachers around the world. We looked at the equivalence and non-equivalence of key phrases between PPST and the corpus. And the results reveal that the TWG was able to use key phrases that match significantly with the corpus. That's 89.18%. Okay. This one should be PPST already. We also worked on the career stages, on languaging the career stages. There are 4 career stages in PPST, and as you see here, we endeavored to make sure that the words show progression in terms of proficiency for teachers across career stages. So when you look at beginning teachers, they are those who have gained the qualifications and they are supported to reach career stage 2. But proficient teachers are professionally independent in the application of skills. They display skills in planning and so on. Highly proficient teachers is a notch higher than professionally independent. It says consistently display a high level of performance. And they are not only professionally independent, they don't only display skills, they provide support and mentoring to colleagues in their professional development. And you look at the language of distinguished teachers, embody the highest standard for teaching, grounded in global best practice, recognized as educators, leaders, contributors to the profession. So there was so much work before we were able to come up with career stage descriptions that would be acceptable to stakeholders and that would show clearly progression from one career stage to the next. Now, the next step of the process is the validation of the draft standards. I go back to what I knew from the very beginning, what I have always known about language, and what language can do and what standards can do for professionals. So these were our guiding principles when we did the validation of the draft standards. Teachers are professionals. Reflection on professional quality is a stimulus for professional development. Ownership is a condition for learning and change. The teacher should own the standards. Quality is a personal and contextual construct. Personal involvement in defining professional quality stimulates ownership and therefore learning and change. Education asks for an interactive relation between policy, research, and practice. These were our questions when we validated. This is the first round of validation for the standards using a survey tool. We asked, do the indicators have clarity of meaning? Are the indicators important to teachers and are at their appropriate level? How do teachers assess the level of difficulty of indicators across the 4 career stages? So we went to 18 divisions, 305 rural, partially urban, and urban schools with 2,251 teacher respondents. And we made use of qualitative data, again, using the softwares that I showed earlier. So we found statements of difficulties or issues. So we go back to knowing the experiences of teachers, knowing about what they think, so we can language the standards well for them. So it says, using ICT is good, but in our school, we have no computer or laptop. We have difficulty to demonstrate and enhance our ICT skills to our students because we don't have any available resources in our school. Some of the kids are not disciplined at home, and that is reflected in school. disciplining them is hard. They also provided imperatives or suggestions, provide projectors and other ICT gadgets and equipment. If the government wants quality education, please provide updated trainings for the teachers, monitor performance, prioritize ICT equipment, attain one-to-one book ratio, and increase the salary of the teachers, because teachers are spending their own money on some instructional materials, classroom enhancement, ICT equipment, and others, just to cater to the educational needs of the learners. It sounded like a rant, but you see, you'll have to respect, okay, the opinions of teachers. Okay? You want to listen to their voices so you're able to develop something, okay, that they recognize as their own. It was a survey, so we did a psychometric analysis of the indicators, and the result is excellent. We have an excellent item reliability and excellent case reliability. 0.7 is acceptable. We have a linked model because we used two forms. We did not want to tire teachers answering a long survey, so we split the surveys into two. So that means that item reliability, that means that the items, the construct in the items are consistent with teacher quality. And case reliability, this refers to the respondents, the teachers responded consistently to the concepts in the constructs in the draft professional standards for teachers. While the item and case reliability are excellent, we found some issues. The Rush model pointed out some issues to us. So you see the red ones. These are the ones that jump out of the scale. So that means these indicators have issues. Okay? These indicators, maybe teachers have problems with these indicators. Maybe teachers did not understand the indicators. Maybe they just really had issues with the indicator. Okay, so we needed to, the Rush tables help us in understanding better the indicators of the professional standards and in understanding how to tweak the language of the standards if the problem is the language, right? So that we're able to come up with a clear presentation of indicators. So this is tweaking the language. Okay? Just like what I said, issues might have been, it's really a problem for teachers. They really can't do it, or maybe they see it as not part of their job. Okay? But in some cases, the problem is the language. Okay? So tweaking the language. These were the items that jumped out of the item fit map. So where respondents did not respond consistently to the constructs in the professional standards. Okay, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items. Okay, one on providing feedback, the other one on monitoring and evaluation strategies, the other one on learning environments responsive to community context, the other one is on understanding and implementing school policies and procedures, the other one is selecting from a range of available resources in the design, delivery of instruction that is responsive to the special educational needs of learners in difficult circumstances, including geographic isolation, chronic illness, and so on. This one, we found out that this was very difficult for teachers. Item 129 is on providing timely, accurate, and constructive feedback. And 148 is on providing learning environments that promote fairness, respect, and care to encourage learning. Okay, so finding out why an indicator is a misfit. So the statistics help us to to identify the indicators that are problematic. When we were able to identify these indicators through RASH, we went back to the qualitative data, okay, to the free responses of the respondents. So this is one example. Provide learning environments that promote fairness, respect, and care to encourage learning. So one comment from a teacher is, we only use the home economics building, and when it rains, there's flooding. So it's difficult to provide a fair learning environment. Okay. Thinking about this, we thought that there's a problem with the word provide. Okay, so doing a simple semantic decomposition, you know, provide versus maintain, both action, they both provide support, but provide means it's not available. It's not in existence. You give something, okay? But when you say maintain, it's there. Okay? You have a good classroom. You are just going to make sure that you continuously do the action that's needed, that is to maintain. Okay? So our draft that says provide learning environments, we changed it to maintain learning environments. Teachers can't do something about damaged classrooms. Teachers have no control over weather. Teachers have no control over flooding. Okay? But they can maintain. Okay? They can do, it's within their power, right, to maintain what's given to them. Okay? What's currently available. Okay. Now, we also looked at the difficulty levels of indicators across career stages. This chart shows that the indicators are where we want them to be. Okay? The indicators for beginning teachers and the indicators for proficient teachers were easy indicators. The indicators for highly proficient teachers and the indicators for distinguished teachers were difficult indicators. How tragic it would have been if the indicators for distinguished teachers were very easy, right? So we got what we wanted. We got what we needed. But it's not perfect. It's not perfect. You look at the indicators for proficient teacher, okay, a bit easier than indicators for beginning teacher. Okay, so again, using our softwares, we and the qualitative comments of our teachers, of our respondents, we studied the indicators. So this one is a sample table on the rank of indicators in the professional standards for teachers. You see, these are ranked according to, from the most difficult to least difficult. So at the right side, you'll see distinguished, that's fine, right? They are supposed to be the most difficult. That's what we wanted. That's where we wanted these indicators to be. But you see there, indicator 3.4.2 is proficient. So how come you have something, okay, that's supposed to be in the proficient career stage, but is regarded by teachers as very difficult? So we needed to look at sheets of this so that we can find indicators that have issues. Okay, so this one, highly proficient. So you have highly proficient, distinguished, right? So in a perfect model, you'll see all distinguished in the beginning, right? And then followed by highly proficient indicators, followed by proficient indicators, and then followed by beginning indicators. Okay? So generally that happened. But when we look at the details, there were some, okay, that were not where they were supposed to be. Okay, so this one, so we had sheets of this. We looked at their scores and their ranking. The lower the number is, the more difficult it is. So when you look at this, 52, that's fine. Rank 52 or negative 0.24, that's fine. That means that's the most difficult. That's very difficult. 53, next difficult. But it looks like prepare and utilize and select appropriate instructional resources is easier, right? 4.5.2 is easier than 4.5.1. Okay, so that went through a lot of discussions, and then going through our corpus, talking with the TWG, right? And so we revised it to select, develop, organize, and use. Okay, but you look at 4.5.3 and 4.5.4, they may be okay, but the difference in the level of difficulty is so tiny, right? So we also had to do something with some of the words in these indicators. Okay, so these are samples of draft versions and revised versions. So what we're saying here at the left side column is that these indicators in the draft version should have been within 120 to 148 ranking. Okay, but they are not within 120 to 148, so that means they are perceived to be difficult. Okay, so that means we needed to revise them. Okay, so instead of interrelatedness, we use application. In 1.2.1, instead of going straight with demonstrate research-based knowledge, we added an understanding. Instead of implement, we say apply. For 2.3.1, instead of saying within a range of physical learning environments, we say within the available. Okay, this is only the ones that are available. In 2.5.1, we removed promoting, okay, that turned out to be difficult for teachers. And then for 5.5.1, demonstrate knowledge of how to use, we use understanding of the role of assessment data as feedback. And then demonstrate knowledge of professional networks and fora. Looking at this, I thought this is really problematic. So we wrote seek opportunities to establish professional links with colleagues. Let's look at distinguished indicators that are perceived to be not difficult. So what we were wanting was for distinguished indicators to be within 1 to 40 ranking. But see, they were out of the range, and there's even one that got 141. Okay, with a word model. It turned out that modeling for teachers, they perceived modeling as easy. Okay, so let's look at the words here. From instruction, we changed it to teaching and learning. 2.3.4, because it's the teacher said this is not difficult. We added at the whole school level. 2.6.4, we made it provide leadership in applying a wide range of strategies. 4.4.4, instead of to enrich, we say to plan and implement. Instead of to share instructional resources, we say model exemplary skills and lead colleagues. Okay, in the development and evaluation of teaching and learning resources, including ICT. And then it says model high respect for existing codes. I think it's not just the language, but the idea that you model high-level respect for codes and laws. Like, how do you do that? How do you measure that somebody is able to show high respect for existing codes, laws, and regulations specified in the Code of Ethics for professional teachers? So that's also problematic at the level of measuring the indicator or measuring the achievement of the indicator by the teacher. So we changed this to lead colleagues in the regular review. So that's something observable. Okay, but they have teachers at this career stage should be able to lead colleagues in the review of codes, laws, and regulations. So this one is easy. Support teachers in understanding and implementing school policies and procedures. So we revised it to evaluate existing school policies and procedures to make them more responsive to the needs of learners. And then this one is, well, not very easy. It's 47. It's close to 40. Lead professional reflections. But we revised it to demonstrate leadership within and across school context in critically evaluating practice and setting clearly defined targets for professional development. Okay. Now, the TWG has revised the standards. Okay. Real language, okay, the draft standards following the results of the RASH model and referring to the comments, to the qualitative data from the field. Now, we wanted to involve more teachers in the validation of the standards. Actually, when we met with Brother Armin then, and we said we could select regions to validate the standards. And he said, no, go to all regions. And he specifically mentioned ARMM. Go to all regions, including ARMM. We need to be able to capture teacher thinking, teacher beliefs, teacher experiences in all contexts in the Philippines. Okay? So we went to all regions in the Philippines, and that was made possible with the support of undersecretary and regional directors who became our regional coordinators. Okay? They made sure that the national focus group workshops would happen smoothly. Okay? So these were our questions in focus group workshops. We gave them the draft standards. They have copies of draft standards. What are the participants, what are your perspectives, views, opinions on the draft domains, strands, indicators, and career stages? And we encourage them to really say what they think about the standards. It was a 2-day focus group workshop. Are the indicators accessible? I showed you earlier about Code of Ethics, which was problematic also in a sense that it's difficult, if not impossible, to measure the indicator. So we needed to make sure that all indicators in the professional standards are accessible. And if they are accessible, then that means teachers could submit evidence, okay, that they meet the indicators or that they achieve the indicators. So besides doing that, we also had experts review the standards. So from learners with special educational needs, the language has become learners with disabilities, giftedness, and talents. Now, what's the response from the field in national focus group workshops? They are aligned. These are samples of the responses that we got from the field. They are aligned. The standards are aligned with K-12. They're teacher-friendly. They cover all aspects of teacher quality requirements in the K-12, considerate and sensitive to the actual scenario of the public schools. Inclusion of content, knowledge, and pedagogy as a domain is very timely and appropriate. Terminology-friendly. Elimination of duplication of some strands lessens the burden of having so much to read on the teacher's part. Address the competencies each teacher should possess. The inclusion of mother tongue in instruction is very important because it's one of the thrusts of K-12. Simplified and direct and have more impact on the performance of teachers would be an inspiration for teachers to aim high and be better. I mean, reading these comments from teachers, okay, and going back to what I said about languaging the professional standards, it seemed to me that we were able to capture the experiences, the aspirations, the practices of teachers in the field. Okay? I have one thing here from a teacher in Region 5. The domains are an improved version because there's an emphasis on content, knowledge, and pedagogy. Efficient and effective teaching is not merely measured by punctuality and good grooming. Okay? Just a trivia. We also reviewed comments of practicum, how do you call that? Supervising instructors on pre-service teachers, and even comments of some principals on the classroom teaching of teachers and pre-service teachers. And some comments would be, wear lipstick, wear makeup. Okay, as if wearing lipstick or as if wearing makeup will make you a competent teacher. But it does help. It does help. Okay, so it's an improved version. We don't have wearing lipstick or makeup in the new professional standards for teachers, because you know when a teacher enters a classroom at 8 o'clock at 8 a.m. Looking so beautiful, okay, she goes out looking horrible at 5 p.m. Okay, so this one is from ARM. The PPST, that was the NCBTS before, can really help improve the teaching quality in ARMM since it talks about the standard quality education. The teacher will be motivated to improve his or herself professionally. Thus, by thoroughly understanding what stage you are at a particular moment, you will be encouraged to improve your teaching. So I'm glad that we're able to capture the experiences and the context of teachers in ARMM. So overall, the response was very positive. The field saw the set of standards as a valid description of the teaching profession, and indicators across career stages are achievable in practice. So PPST is seen to have reflected the views and aspirations of teachers, as well as the relevance of the standards to teachers' professional practice. They have put across the potential to empower the profession and encourage teachers to stay in the teaching track. And the PPST has captured the voice of the profession. Before I end my talk, I'd like to pay tribute to people that made this happen. Okay? This is a photo of the finalization workshop of the regional directors and bureau directors from the Department of Education. And this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity where we put together the officials of DepEd and the teachers in the Department of Education. So they talked, right? They collaborated, they reviewed together, and the officials listened to these teachers. And I won't forget my research officers, particularly Maui Rosero, who is with us today, watching from Japan, who really helped me a lot in this work. And a shout out also to my former research officers, Marla Papango, Marcia Gomez, Vicky de los Santos. Yeah, that's the problem with naming names. You forget any of them. Donna Di Mesa. Okay. And of course, getting heard, right? The voices of the teachers in the field. Tribute to all the principals, to all the supervisors who helped in this huge research development work. And tribute most especially to teachers in the field who gave their voices to the development of the Philippine professional standards for teachers. So I can say that we were successful with your help, especially the teachers' help. We were successful in languaging the professional standards for teachers in the Philippines. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gonong, and congratulations. May I invite everybody to show Dr. Gonong our appreciation by clicking on the heart or clap icons for reaction. Thank you very much. That was really very inspiring. We really learned a lot as to how you were able to go through the development of the PPST, and I suppose it's the same with the PPSS and the PPSH. Okay, so at this point, we are now opening the virtual floor for the open forum. We still have a few minutes for some questions. You may type your questions in the chat box, and please make sure that you're also writing your full name and your affiliation. Okay. So while waiting for the questions, okay, to come in, I suppose a lot of our participants here have questions brewing in their heads. Okay. So they're still giving their thanks and congratulations. Okay. Sige. So while waiting for their questions, I think I have this in mind while you were talking, Dr. Gonong. Okay. So PPST, no, became what it is right now. It's actually very easy to understand and can be easily articulated in tools and instruments, no. And I think, no, now I understand why, because you use language as the foundation for its development. Now I'm just wondering, I don't know if I'm just being biased, Dr. Gono, because I'm also coming from the language group. I'm a language person as well. But I don't know. I'm just thinking if the PPST, the PPSH, and the PPSS would actually look that way uh, if it's somebody who is not in the language field who actually led in its development.
I'll give you a biased answer.
Sorry, pero that's actually
It's best led by a language person. So that's a biased answer, Dr. Makahilig.
it's also a biased question from me.
Remember, in the beginning, I really was very hesitant. I had so many reservations taking on this project because my field is linguistics, not statistics, not measurement and evaluation. But it turned out that linguistics was a great help.
That's right. That's right.
So I'm thankful. I'm thankful to be in this field.
Yeah, and hearing it from you and hearing how you went through the processes and using your expertise in language actually really made PPST as it is right now. Okay. So, Yon, thank you very much for that biased answer.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for the biased question also.
Okay. Okay, I would just like to read from some of the comments here from Carmela Ana Reforma. She said, as a deputy teacher, I can relate to the teacher's experiences in the field, and now I understood the PPST deeper. So do I. Okay. No questions here. Okay, I think this is a question. From Miguelito Campillos, as a public school teacher who have seen the former RPMS PPST indicators and its revised edition, I can say that they have actually done a good job. The school head should be empowered also in the implementation of this amazing project. Okay, so are there any questions that you would like to ask Dr. Gono? Okay, there are a lot of congratulatory messages here, as well as messages that they were inspired by your talk. Okay. So, from Romy Lumanog, when will it be applicable? This school year 2022-2023, I think the implementation. Dr. Gina?
The implementation started in 2017 upon the signing of the policy in August 2017. So what DepEd is currently doing now is embedding the professional standards in systems that support teachers, such as in professional development, professional management system, rewards and recognition, and career progression.
Thank you, Dr. Gonong. Another one from Jeric Alico of CSSH. Hello, Dr. Gonong. I'm Jerry Alico from the Mindanao State University, Marawi. I'd like to ask for some updates regarding the implementation of the PPST. Is there a continuing monitoring and evaluation of it?
Mm-hmm. My job does not include the implementation of PPST. So I think the best person to answer the question is DepEd. But from what I know, Jerry, just like what I said earlier, it's being embedded in systems for teachers. So it's a continuous implementation. And the school heads, with their new professional standards, are expected to monitor and support the performance of teachers following PPST. So at the school level, Jerry, there should be continuous monitoring and evaluation of performance of teachers. But I always say that it has to be in a very supportive manner for teachers.
Okay, we also have another one here from Charlotte Lecaros. Dr. Gina, how have the different regions elaborated on the standards to express their unique contexts while remaining within the framework of national standards?
If there might be two things in this question, Ma'am Chulette. One is we now have the PPST. Has the PPST been elaborated into specific practices in the region? Maybe what I can say is I think the schools have been contextualizing PPST, or they have been at the regional level, they have been doing what we call prioritization of indicators. Like you have 37 indicators in PPST, and then if my region, if my division has many indigenous learners, then the officials would prioritize the indicator on indigenous learners, supporting teachers on how to be responsive to the needs of indigenous learners. The other part of the question is when the regions came together during the validation, did they think of their own context to ensure that their contexts are embedded in the national standards? And the answer to that is yes. We went to all regions and made sure that all participants in those regions were able to look at the standards using the lens of their context and practices in the region.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Gina. I hope Miss Cholette's question was answered. How about, I think I have here another one from Alanis Figueroa. Dr. Gina, what are your thoughts on reconciling the different interpretations of the PPST?
Reconciling the different interpretations. I think it's natural if you come from different fields. Like, for example, a language teacher would look at content knowledge and pedagogy differently from a math teacher because the content, the strategies used by English teachers and math teachers are different. Okay? But then the standards are written in a very generic way. So that means it can respond to any context. Okay? So we don't say in the standards, for example, we don't put anything about theories or about particular approaches that would tie teachers to these certain approaches or theories or certain pedagogies. Okay? Remember, we wanted teacher agency and teacher autonomy to be at the heart of the professional standards. So when they read a particular indicator, for example, responding to learners in difficult circumstances, a BARM teacher might interpret it differently. Might use different strategies from an NCR teacher, and that is fine. Okay? still, you're still getting the generic expectation of the standards that you respond to learners in difficult circumstances. How to do that, that's yours, okay? Depends on your context, depends on your skills, depends on the needs of your learners.
Thank you, Dr. Gonong. I think we can still accommodate at least two more questions. We can have these questions emailed to Dr. Gonong later on, yung hindi na mababasa. And hopefully she can respond to your questions even after the program is over. Okay. One question from Jose Makatangay. What specific area of linguistics can I apply in case I would like to study the university's performance evaluation instrument for teachers?
That's a difficult question, but you can look at performance evaluation in different ways. If your thinking is that performance evaluation is a tool to oppress, you're talking about power versus powerless, then your perspective is critical discourse analysis, right? If you just want to study the language of the performance evaluation, then maybe you can do discourse analysis or textual analysis or content analysis. So you go back to what you love, to what you want to do in linguistics, and use that when you think of a method, okay, to achieve your purpose.
Okay, I think this would be our last question for this morning. From BSU, I don't know who is the sender of this message. How can languaging the PPST help in making the results of PPST RPMS reliable?
We will be ready very soon with an analysis of RPMS data. And hopefully we'll be able to share the results with DepEd, and DepEd may decide to share the results with the public. But sir or ma'am from BSU, we have data on RPMS, and we have started to analyze RPMS data. And we'll be happy to share them with you as soon as DepEd approves of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gina. There are still a lot of questions, but in view of time, it's already 11:35. I think we can just collect all the questions and then send it to Dr. Gonong, and hopefully Dr. Gonong can respond to this and send it to you. I just hope that you would also give us your email address so that the questions can be, the responses to your questions can be sent to you. Okay, so at this point, okay, may I call on Dr. Aldrin Lee and Dr. Jenny Hoxon? Okay, can you open your cameras, please, for the awarding of the Certificate of Appreciation to Dr. Gonong? Okay. Can we pin Dr. Lee and Dr. Hoxon, please? Okay. Thank you. Okay, so the Linguistic Society, allow me to read the citation of the certificate. The Linguistic Society of the Philippines and the Philippine Normal University present this Certificate of Appreciation to Dr. Gina Gonong for giving a lecture as the recipient of the 2022 Bonifacio P. Sibayan Distinguished Professorial Chair in Applied Linguistics, entitled Languaging the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers, held on March 19, 2022 at 10 a.m. to 12 noon via Zoom. Signed, Dr. Aldrin P. Lee, President, LSP. Congratulations, Dr. Gonong.
Thank you, LSP. Thank you, Dr. Aldrin.
Thank you very much. So at this point, I would like to hold on Dr. Aldrin Lee, who is still on screen right now, for the closing remarks. Dr. Aldrin Lee is the president of the Linguistic Society of the Philippines.
Hello, thank you very much, Doc Heidi, and congratulations again to Doc Gina. I hope you could hear me now.
Yes, sir, we can hear you well.
Yeah, hello. To Dr. Bert Tuga, President of the Philippine Normal University System, the Vice President for Academics of PNU, Dr. Jenny Hoxon, Dean Ruth Alido of the College of Teacher Development, and the other PNU officials, teachers, and students who are here today. To the linguistic side of the Philippines board members who join us this morning. To the 300 plus participants, many of them we could not accommodate anymore. Good morning and thank you for your presence today. As you know, the Bonifacio P. Sibayan Distinguished Professorial Chair is one of the two. In fact, there are only two distinguished professorial chairs established by the linguistic side of the Philippines. The other one being the brother Andrew Gonzalez DPC. This reflects the extent of respect that we hold of the life and the legacy of Dr. Boni Sibayan. As we have heard from the tribute given by Dr. Ruth Alido earlier, Dr. Bonifacio Sibayan, apart from being an accomplished scholar who is still relevant today, I still use the intellectualization of Filipino authored by him as one of the readings in one of my courses. He was also an academic leader who selflessly offered himself to serving the discipline, particularly its growth and development in the Philippines. The LSP itself was a brainchild of Dr. Sibayan alongside Dr. Ernesto Constantino of UP when they went together to do research at the Pacific and Asian Languages Institute of the University of Hawaii in 1968. With Dr. Sibayan, we could see that while being a prolific scholar is a great achievement, it is sometimes one's selfless, dedicated academic or institutional leadership that leaves a longer lasting impact on the community. And to have done both, like Dr. Boni Sibayan, would definitely merit a memorialization just as big as a distinguished professorial chair. Now, I have to admit that I was not very familiar with Dr. Gina Gonong's works before she was nominated to be the recipient of this year's PPST. And of course, I had to Google her name, but it was not difficult at all with all those accomplishments under her belt. Indeed, the call that I made to her last January, she mentioned about this a while ago, to break the news that she was selected as this year's BPST was very memorable because her reaction was extremely sincere. And I really felt her happiness when I broke the news to her. And she sounded very humble, far from the kind of persona that we would normally expect from a highly accomplished individual. And listening to her talk today made me realize how similar her career path is to the sort of career direction that DPS Boni Sibayan had taken, being a well-accomplished researcher and a highly respected institutional leader at the same time. We are truly honored and proud to have bestowed Dr. Gina Gonong the prestigious Bonifacio Sibayan Distinguished Professorial Chair this year. So congratulations, Dr. Gonong. And before we end today, let me thank everyone who helped us make this event possible in spite of the very short notice. Of course, our colleagues from the Philippine Normal University, Dr. Cecil Hinuino, who is also a board member of LSP, Dr. Celi Amarles, former board member as well of LSP. And most especially I would like to mention especially Dr. Jenny Hoxon, VP for Academics of PNU, who had to accept my call in the middle of the night just to make sure that we will be pushing through with today's event. Of course, I would like to thank my colleagues at the LSP board, especially to the Director of Professional Meetings, Dr. Shirley Dita, who is also joining us today and who facilitated the tech plan of the program, as well as the preparations leading to today's event. And also, of course, I would like to thank Mr. Kerr Zamora for helping us facilitate and also handle all the slides and all the program necessities for today's event. Most of all, I would like to thank all of you, the participants. I understand, and I would like to apologize that we could only accommodate 300. I could see, and as Dr. Dita has shared to me a while ago, there were still many of you who were lining up to be admitted to the Zoom room. We're really sorry that we could only admit 300, but rest assured that the recording of the event, with the permission of Dr. Gonong, will be made available to the public after the event. So again, thank you very much for joining us today. Keep safe, and we'll see you again in 2023 BPST PC. Maraming salamat po. Thank you.